Lovely sparkling water. So if you're new to filmmaking and you want to get those lovely smooth slider shots, which everybody wants, should you go down the route of investing in a slider like this, which is going to cost you about 1,500 euros, or should you get a cheap ass motherfucker like this, which is basically homemade, okay? It's made out of nice box aluminium, using good quality skateboard wheels, and some timber then to put it together. Now I sort of butchered this a few years ago so that I could take it apart and bring it with me traveling abroad. I actually went to Norway with this and I managed just fine. Now in case you're wondering what you slide it on, get yourself some waste pipe like this. You've probably seen other guys doing this. This is like real old school filmmaking. You just drop your slider onto it, okay? Now I gotta be very careful in here. I'm putting this up on the table, but obviously that's gonna be on the ground. And then you have this nice big smooth platform that you can just move and track your camera on, okay? So when would this be better than this? And when would this be better than this? I'm gonna share everything with you right now. So first up, let's look at the advantages of the electronic, expensive, slick-looking slider as opposed to the crude, homemade metal and plastic slider here, and timber. First thing is, it's lovely, small and compact, and it comes in a beautiful case. You can travel with it, you can move around, and it looks fantastic. Every time I would take this slider out, when I'd bring it to a job and I'd put these two pieces of waste pipe on the ground and start sliding, everyone would sort of comment and, you know, smirk slightly, but they always said the same thing: it gets the job done. So this looks really cool, this looks a bit crude, this gets the job done, okay? So that's one advantage of the slider, it looks awesome. Another great advantage to an electronic slider is it's great for the single camera operator. It's like a second cameraman. You can put it on a tripod and you can get it to just go over and back and, you know, keep that repeated dolly movement, because when you're editing with two cameras, say an interview for example, you're going to want a little bit of movement in there. It's nice. You don't need it, but it is nice. And you can set this up and then you can manually operate another camera yourself, or you can just check sound or whatever. But this is going to be chugging away back and forward, getting you those nice little slidey interview shots, okay? It's great for filming yourself, you know, if you're out shooting videos on your own and you want to film yourself doing something and get a bit of movement, set the shot up, go and do the movement yourself, and the camera's going to just loop away. Another big advantage to the electronic slider is the absolute precision of movements. That makes it really nice for things like product videos. Now last Christmas I had a product video to do and I really struggled to get those really calculated close-up movements with this guy, and I wished I had this, and that's one of the reasons I got this in the event that I have to shoot products close up where this just isn't going to work. So that is another huge advantage to having an electronic slider like this. Another really big obvious advantage is, and probably one of the biggest uses for this type of slider, is time-lapse shots, okay? Where you just set the camera to, you know, take a picture every now and again and let it slide at a certain pace, say 10 minutes, calculated to go 10 minutes from A to B, pointing the camera this way, swinging over this way. That is another huge advantage to an electronic slider. Another great advantage to this is you can tilt it. Now, tilting a slider like this takes a bit of work. You don't just put it on your tripod and flip it and just hope for the best, because it's got an arc on it. Now, you can remove the arc and go without the arc, but when you include the arc in your tilt, it does get more complicated. Now, that's just this type of slider. There are different sliders. So that is another advantage to this. You can do those angled movements where they'll drop the camera up and down, but you cannot really do it with this. You can't push this up and down. It just does not work. Another great advantage of the electronic slider is how low you can go. It'll let you go really low to the ground, and you get those beautiful sort of low perspective shots where you can reveal behind something low, or else you can just get, you know, debris or something, stones, whatever the foreground is up close, and it's a really nice shot. Because using this slider for the last few years, you have to use a tripod. Now, sometimes I just mounted the camera on the actual slider on a plank here and let you go quite low, but usually you have to use a tripod. So now let's look at the advantages of this old school rugged slider that I have here. It works instantly. You just throw it on the ground, bang your tripod up on it and start sliding away. That is a really cool advantage. And straight away you'll be doing controlled slider movements with your hand. The more you get used to it, the smoother you get. There isn't any drag, so you do have to control the movement yourself, but they're going to be quite smooth, trust me, and you're going to get the hang of it after a while. That is another serious advantage. Another good advantage is that you're not fussing around with gear and that your tripod is on this, and if you want to lift your tripod off, straight away your camera is ready. You're not unhooking the camera, you're not sort of putting it on a different setup and, you know, taking it all apart. It's ready, it's sitting there, and in many cases I would just have my tripod left on this in the middle so it's not going to roll off, and I can just move it around whatever way I want. Another big obvious advantage is that the slider is so cheap. This cost me about 80 or 90 euros to make. I actually got the metal for free. These pipes, you can buy them for like 6 euros each, and you can cut them any length to suit. The wheels for this cost about 80 quid. They were quite expensive skateboard wheels, and I needed 8 of them. Another great thing about manual sliders like this one is you can just do those cool camera movements yourself. Say if you wanted to do a focus pull plus a camera tilt plus a pan. You wanted to do a complex move. Say if somebody's sitting over there, you've got an actor here, you position them there and you want to just pan and get to their face and do a focus on their eyes. It'll actually let you just, you know, manually do it. You can do it as long as you want. You can buy these pipes up to 10 feet in length, 3 meters. So you can do like a 10-foot long roll into someone's face, and with a bit of practice you will get that really cool long movement. Another advantage to the rugged homemade slider is that you're never going to run out of battery. Once or twice I went out on a job with the electronic slider and I noticed that the arc hadn't been charged, or the arc had been left switched on and it drained the battery, and I went to use it and, you know, it wasn't working. So I had to do slides with no arc on it. Some disadvantages of this one: you can't push it up a slope, it has to be pretty level. You will get shit on the pipes, especially if you're on a like dirty surface. You're going to always have to keep those pipes clean. Any little bit of dirt, any little bit of, you know, grit or anything on these is going to pick up in the camera movement. It can be awkward lugging it around, and it doesn't look very good when you're lifting 2 pipes around and you're lifting this thing and putting it on the ground. You know, it doesn't look as good as this. It's not as good for those really super controlled movements, and obviously you can't do things like time lapses. So obviously some disadvantages there as well to this slider. Okay, disadvantages of the electronic slider. There are a few. One disadvantage to the electronic slider is that, you know, you really got to use a head like this. I've seen guys use those bigger, heavier heads, but you got to use a smaller photography head, in my honest opinion, because using those bigger heads, it just can be a little bit awkward. You know, those big Manfrotto 504s, not as good. This smaller one, much better. And it also suits a smaller camera setup as well. It suits like a GH5. You know, even the Blackmagics on this will be a little bit heavy. It's better with the GH5, you know, Sony AR3s, that type of size camera. I've seen loads of people use bigger cameras on it, like FS7s and Blackmagic Ursas. That can be done, but if you're doing that, you know, you got to make sure that it's very secure. With a camera like this, you can just have it center mounted on a tripod and not worry about it toppling over. But if you get those bigger cameras, you're going to have it much more secure. Another disadvantage of the electronic slider is the setup each time. You know, you do really have to sort of get this out and start fiddling. You would have a lot of shots done with this by the time you've got your slider set up. It does take minutes, and when you're on your own doing your own content, it's fine, but when you're in a sort of busy work environment and their clients are with you, watching you, it can be quite off-putting when you're setting up a slider. And, you know, obviously I have it ready now, but when you're plugging things in and you're realizing that maybe the battery has run out the arc, and, you know, you're trying to level it and just put it up on the tripod, and maybe then the tripod leg is loose. That happened to me as well. The tripod leg was actually loose, and I had to go and find a screwdriver to tighten it. And I mean, that can happen anyway, but I just found that it's a lot more fiddly, and it takes a little bit more time to set up than the old school slider. Okay, so that is sort of the differences between manual dolly slider and electronic high-tech motion slider like this. So thank you for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you want more video related content. My name is Hugh Sweeney, and I will be back soon with another video.